Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Grindhouse, where we drink coffee and talk about movies. My name is Shawn Tetrault, and today, with my girlfriend and co-host Leah Diana, we will be winding back the reel to 1976, where a mentally unstable veteran works as a nighttime taxi driver in New York City, where the perceived decadence and sleaze fuels his urge for violent action in Taxi Driver. Let's get into it.
Second call, 404 Hamilton, 417. 195. Alfano, 448.
De Niro. In Bang the Drum Slowly, the critics called him a brilliant new talent. After Mean Streets, they said he was a genius. For his performance in The Godfather Part 2, they gave him the Academy Award.
Come on, man. Just get me out of here, all right?
Now, Robert De Niro creates a terrifying portrait of life on the edge of madness.
Tabby, just forget about this. It's nothing.
Taxi Driver, a film by Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, people do anything in front of a taxi driver. I mean, anything. People too cheap to rent a hotel room.
Oh, driver, hurry up, will you?
People want to embarrass you. It's like you're not even there. It's like, you know, like a taxi driver doesn't even exist. This city here is like an open sewer, you know? It's full of filth and scum.
I think I know what you mean, Travis. But it's not going to be easy.
Them guys get to be a Secret Service man. What? I was just curious, because I thought maybe I'd make a good one. Hey, what kind of guns do you guys carry? 38s, 45s, 357 Magnums, something bigger maybe? Hi. I'd like to volunteer.
Why?
Why? Because I think that you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
The taxi driver is looking for a target. Getting ready. Getting organized. Preparing himself for the only moment in his life that will ever mean anything.
How much for everything?
$350 for the Magnum, $250 for the 38, $1.25 for the 25, $150 for the 380.
That taxi driver's been staring at us.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
I don't know who's weirder, you or me.
You talking to me? Then who the hell else are you talking? Talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here.
I don't believe I've ever met anyone quite like you.
Oh, yeah?
You will never see a more chilling performance than this. Robert De Niro in Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver. Jodie Foster, Albert Brooks, Harvey Keitel, Leonard Harris, Peter Boyle, Sybil Shepherd. Taxi Driver.
Spread the word, you dirty cocksuckers. Tell all your grave robbing friends I want them out of the city now!
The nightmare of insane murder.
From the depths of hell.
Screaming angel of death.
Only at the Grindhouse.
Don't mind me. I'm just dipping a cookie into hot chocolate.
Yes, it is, at the time of recording this, October 1st.
At 9:48 p.m. This is the latest we've ever recorded a podcast.
Yes, we had a bit of a long day, so we're just getting to this now. And it's a bit chilly out. Rather than drinking coffee, we switched to hot cocoa tonight.
Why is it chilly in the apartment, Shawn?
Because I live with someone who can't feasibly stand the idea of closing the fucking windows no matter how cold it is.
Before December 1st, we've had to have the windows buttoned because it was so hot all summer. And the minute I could keep these windows open, oh, they're open. But it got really cold today because there was a hurricane that just hit Florida. Hurricane Ian. Side note, my father, stepmother, and two stepsisters and my half-sister live in Florida. And I sent my dad a text going, hey, it's really nice that your son is visiting you, but does he have to be so destructive? My younger brother's name is Ian. Everyone has been busting his chops. If you were affected by the hurricane, I am very sorry, and I hope everything goes well. I'm really sorry my brother was an asshole and ruined shit. So we watched a weird movie. Okay, it wasn't a weird movie.
It's not weird. I mean, it's...
I keep forgetting that movies by certain directors, and I'm not like being like, oh, certain directors are assholes. I'm saying certain directors had creative and artistic views for films. And you don't see that nowadays. Unless you're really, really going to like a film festival, or you're really looking for these like smaller directors that were influenced by these people. I really don't think I've seen a movie like this before.
No, nowadays a lot of the things that we get, a lot of the things in theaters and even coming to like streaming services and stuff like that are very cookie cutter. They're very studio driven and strategically built by writers to make the biggest amount of money.
I.e. the movie that released yesterday.
Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus 2. We've not seen it at this point.
However, this was made during a time when filmmakers were very much more independent. Like, they were doing things on their own. Studios had less control over what was coming in. They just kind of bought movies as they went to festivals and stuff like that. I don't know if that was the case with this one, considering by this time Martin Scorsese had made a couple of movies under his belt already. So I think this was one of his first like big, like the movie that made the big impact that basically launched his whole career.
Honestly, I was looking over, because I'll be honest, this one we don't really have a play-by-play for. No. This one we're probably just going to analyze the movie for what it was worth, not by play-by-play. But watching this, I was looking up like things, because last week when I said, ugh, I don't want to watch a Martin Scorsese film. Ugh, this guy sucks. Bleh. I didn't hate this film.
You had no reason to hate this film.
I had no reason to hate this film.
Or its director, because you had never seen anything he had done.
Let me finish my story before you jump on me, sir. Thank you.
Continue.
Thank you. But this movie definitely like intrigued me, because I'm like, oh, okay, what was this? What was this? What was this? And if I didn't understand a scene, I went to Wikipedia to be like, okay, that's what that was supposed to be. And there's a lot of facts about this one. I think there were a couple that kind of made me go, really? And they shocked me, but I'm like, well, it was 1976, so okay, that made sense. So rather than talk about all of those things now, I think we should get into the film and get the deets.
All right, so this week we watched Taxi Driver. This was directed by Martin Scorsese, the infamous Martin Scorsese. Written by Paul Schrader, stars Robert De Niro, Jodie Foster, a very young Jodie Foster, Albert Brooks, Harvey Keitel, Leonard Harris, Peter Boyle, and Sybil Shepherd.
Definitely one hell of a cast.
This is what you would say
the
is the
beginning of careers kind of cast.
This is an ensemble.
Yeah.
This movie originally released February 9th, 1976, though I think its broader release wasn't until 78.
Yeah, because it was a film festival movie, right? From what I understand.
I'm not positive on that. It was made on a budget of $1.9 million and brought in a box office of $28.6 million.
Damn, it was a success.
Hell yes, it was. So where do you want to begin talking about Taxi Driver?
So the movie opens, and I want to talk about the score first.
You want to talk about the score first?
The score unsettled me. Especially the beginning score.
Okay.
You have this kind of like jazzy, sensual score, and then it goes, wah, wah. I'm like, why is it so aggressive? Like, that's what I put. Like, the music is calm and aggressive at the same time. And apparently this score is a really big, like, people love this score.
I love this score.
Do you own this score?
On vinyl?
Yeah.
No.
Are we going to own this
if
score?
I can find it.
True fact.
This is, so the score is a single piece in a much bigger puzzle with this. So, like, the entirety of this movie is designed and tailored to put you inside of our protagonist's head. Our protagonist being Travis Bickle. So this score, while it seems like it's a little all over the place, it's really not. It's very very much designed to deliver you that film noir feeling, because this whole movie it's a neo-noir.
I thought film noir were supposed to be in black and white.
No, not necessarily.
It's just a characteristic, not a...
It's a neo-noir. So a neo-noir is like a modern noir film. So like neo-noirs generally are in color, but they carry those film noir themes.
Okay.
Like the music, and if you notice the way the characters talk to each other, the way the dialogue flows is very... It's almost rehearsed. Like it feels very over dramatic.
Well, it is a movie. They do have to rehearse.
You know what I mean? It doesn't feel natural.
So I need the definition of a noir first.
You want the actual definition?
I need the actual definition of noir, because what I thought was a noir was a French lady sitting in a room in underwear with a cigarette crying about her life.
A film noir is a style or genre of cinematic film marked by a mood of pessimism, fatalism, or menace. The term was originally applied to American thriller and detective films made in the period 1944 to 54.
That's why I didn't know it was a noir film. He didn't say dame or broad.
It's a modern noir, or a more modern noir.
Oh, they called sluts and bitches. I get it now. Well,
but do you get, like, this whole movie had that
it's a mood. It's a mental illness or mental instability kind of mood. Like, you're thrown into Travis's brain, and that's why we can't really give you a play-by-play, because we're literally following Travis's brain.
Yeah.
And it was hard to understand what was going to happen.
This movie jumps around a lot. It's another one of those that's like, it's a bit hard to just describe scene by scene.
Yeah.
But as you said, like, the score kind of drives it. It guides, it introduces you immediately. We open on that gorgeous shot of the cab rolling through that billow of fog, which is so fucking film noir. It's ridiculous.
Honestly, I was like, is this a horror movie, or is this like an artsy film? Like, what is happening right now?
And that's one of those cool things about film noirs, is it blurs that line a little bit.
Okay.
Like, even the lighting in this movie, if you were to switch it to black and white, it would feel very film noir with the way honestly, shadows are cast.
This might have done better for me in black and white.
I would love to watch this in black and white at some point.
We have the TV.
Yeah.
We just have to find the VHS.
We have the ability. I do own this on VHS, though we watched the Blu-ray version today, which I believe is the Sony Pictures Blu-ray release. It's like this media book with like a bunch of lobby cards, which I still have sealed in plastic. I never opened those.
Wow.
And the case for this thing is absolutely gorgeous.
It's like black and white scenes from the movie, which was really cool. When I first saw that, I thought it was in black and white.
I wish it was, honestly.
I think color distracts the film, and I was very, very intrigued to find out about the ending of the film and what they had to do with the color. You didn't read that fun fact?
I did not.
So, at the end of the film, there is a scene where Travis goes in, literally guns a-blazing, to rescue a young prostitute.
Yeah, this is the big climax of the movie.
And I read that to keep their rating R, instead of going to X, which the Motion Picture Association wanted to do, they had to mute the colors. Where Martin Scorsese said it helped the film in the end, the original DP said he wished they kept the originals because they are degraded beyond the point of saving. So we will never see the true colors of the end of that. But you can kind of piece it together by, there's a scene previously when he goes to visit Iris in her apartment, and you see all her apartment is so colorful.
It's extremely colorful.
There's like 40 or 50 candles, all different colors lit. She's got these bright pastels on. It's a beautiful palette. Now, thinking of a 2022 mind, that was nothing. There was no real violence, in my opinion. But for 1976...
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
And then finding out that Jodie Foster was actually 12 when they filmed this.
Yep.
There was huge controversy behind that.
That speaks measures to her fucking acting ability.
I've always loved Jodie Foster. And my favorite Jodie Foster film, I'm gonna get killed, is Contact.
Contact?
I love Jodie Foster in Contact. But that's really, besides this, I think might be the only film I've ever seen her in.
To be fair, you've never seen Silence of the Lambs.
No, and I'm going to let you in on a secret. I don't like Hannibal Lecter. He gives me the heebie-jeebies, and I don't know how I'm going to feel once we get to Silence of the Lambs. Because I know it's a movie we're going to have to watch. Like, anytime I've seen that man do the thing, I'm just like, I gotta go.
That's the point.
Oh, it's unsettling. But he's such a nice guy. And just for him to be that disturbing, it's just terrifying.
I don't disagree, but that's why I love it. Like, it's so off-putting. We're talking a bit too much about Silence of the Lambs, though.
Yeah, well, we go on tangents all the time. Why not?
That's true.
I was also very shocked to find out how young Robert De Niro was. This whole cast was young. I remember watching Sybil Shepherd. She had her own sitcom show at one point. Sybil. On NBC years and years ago.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
My parents used to watch it, if I remember. I remember, Sybil Shepherd had a television show, and I watched that in, like, the 90s. And Jodie Foster I'd seen in Contact. Robert De Niro I've only heard of. Like, I haven't really seen his movies. Like, the first movie... I'm gonna get killed. The first movie I ever saw Robert De Niro in was Meet the Fockers.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, that's the first film I ever saw Robert De Niro in.
How?
Because I am a freaking worm that lives underground under a rock, okay?
Apparently. Jesus Christ.
I didn't watch films growing up, and if I did, they were Disney. Oh, I lied. Jodie Foster? Actually, the first thing I saw her was Freaky Friday. She was in the original Freaky Friday.
Oh, Christ.
Look, not everybody is a movie snob like you are, Mr. Nightmare on Elm Street at 3.
Listen, I wouldn't call myself a movie snob. Maybe a horror snob.
You admitted you're a coffee snob at the grocery store yesterday.
That's true. I'm becoming one, and it's... You know what? I'm okay with it.
You gotta be a snob about something, right?
I guess.
So the next thing I noticed, the score, while gorgeous, it was just that beginning that I noticed. Very evident this movie was never intended for 4K.
No.
The film had that close-up of De Niro in the cab in the beginning. I was like, you could see that 4K was like doing that camera thing where it was like, focus, focus, focus. It was having such a hard time catching the details. Because I'm like, De Niro has freckles. Now he doesn't. Now he does. Now he doesn't. Is it the camera? Nope. It's the 4K transfer, and it's not doing good.
The movie looks beautiful,
It looks beautiful. Ignore the 4K. Like, ignore the high def. I love old films like these on tape and on actual film. I'm getting to the point where I hate them on Blu-rays. I hate it. Because to me, it loses something when it's like, oh, look at the 4K transfer. Yeah, now I can see every single flaw. With film, they could get away with hiding flaws.
Just means we'll have to buy the tapes for everything.
Oh no, like we already don't already.
So, the first real scene we get introducing us to Travis is the scene where he actually goes in and applies for a job at the cab company. We don't know what he was doing before this. We don't know how he came to find himself in New York. We do learn in this scene that he's
ex-Marine.
He's ex-Marines, and we start to get an idea of like who he is. Like, he's a loner. We learn that he doesn't sleep much.
He has extreme insomnia, and he can go days, even weeks without sleeping, which really does not help mental health at all.
No, that just adds to his mental state.
I mean, you've dealt with me when I have some insomnia, and my insomnia is I sleep for a couple hours and then I'm up, and then I'm down, I'm up. And that just absolutely makes me nutty. I cannot imagine what this man, it really is going on in his head on week 2 of no sleep.
Yeah.
And just popping pills and drinking alcohol to stay focused.
Going to porno theaters to fill the time.
Because he has no idea, like, it's a film. What?
Yeah, and we are going to learn, we'll talk about it a little later, but like how disconnected from fucking reality and society he is.
If you're applying for a job where you work 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. as a taxi driver in New York in the 70s, you are asking to just go fucking bazonk at that point.
I have a fun fact about this scene.
Ooh, fun fact.
So he goes in and he's talking to somebody. I don't know the character, who the character's supposed to be, but
that
somebody.
First scene?
Yeah,
I
somebody.
think it's the manager.
Yeah, manager of the cab company. Who you wouldn't know this because we haven't gotten to that movie yet, but
it's somebody important.
He's played by Joe Spinell.
Wait, help me. I know Spinell. Spinell sounds familiar.
Joe Spinell is the lead actor of the film Maniac.
I did watch that. That's the poster we have by the door. No, I watched the Elijah Wood version.
You didn't see that.
I haven't watched that one yet.
And the second this is the first time watching this movie, I realized that was him. And I nearly shit my pants because in realizing that, the only thing that came to mind was the first thing we see is Travis staring at a metaphor of a reflection of the insane person that Travis is. He's literally staring into the face of a maniac. I fucking loved that. I don't know if it was intentional, but now with that film existing,
yeah,
I don't know if that was made before. I'd have to double check. And
that's why we have the internet. I have to make sure it's Joe Spinell, not. That's why I know Joe Spinell, because I look at his fucking name every time I walk in the door.
Maniac was 1980.
Oh wow!
So this happened before
Maniac,
but it's a fucking beautiful coincidence. I absolutely love it.
So for everybody listening that knows me really well, he said the word maniac, and instead of paying attention to him, I had to really hard get back on the train. I started singing a K-pop song in my head by a band called Stray Kids. If you know, you know.
Okay, so anybody listening, Leah's been canceled from this podcast. We're going to continue on without her.
Who are you going to talk to, the cats?
I'm going to talk to myself.
Yeah, because you're a great conversationalist. So there were two things I noticed about the opening scene.
Yeah.
When he finally gets in when he's with the manager goes, "What are you, moonlighting?" And I'm like, moonlighting? Wait a minute. That's a prostitution term, isn't it? Right? I Googled moonlighting. It is not. It just means to have a second job. Like all moonlighting means is you have a second job.
Okay.
So you leave one job and you moonlight another job because you're working at night.
Yep.
In the moonlight. I'm like, oh.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
That does. The second thing I noticed that caught my eye is when he's driving the cab down New York and he has that opening monologue. You see one of those arcade signs that says fascination, and a memory jumped in my brain. Now, back in the 70s, or like the 50s, 60s, 70s, there was a game called Fascination. Google Fascination arcade game.
Googling.
So Fascination is a game where you sit down at this, it kind of looks like, that game that's at Dave & Buster's where you roll the ball and it goes in little holes. This is kind of the same. Skee ball. This is kind of the same thing on a smaller scale where you have to roll these little balls and make matches. And it brought me to a memory where way back in the late 2000s, I used to go to a campground amusement park called Nobles in Ellisburg, Pennsylvania. And they were one of the only places remaining that still has Fascination in the park. And you can play, and you can win prizes and all sorts of stuff. But it just brought me back to this memory of this simple game. And it being so popular. It's in the middle of New York City. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. I've actually played one of those games. And I actually know, the history of that. From what I understand, they had tons of, Fascination games from all around the country that they salvaged. And it was a quarter to play a game, and you could win a bunch of stuff and tickets. It was really cool. But if you look at it, it's like skee ball on a very small scale.
Yeah.
I don't know. It triggered this memory from good God, I want to say 12, 13, 14 years ago now for me, where I was like, oh, this is a kind of a cool game. I'll never need this information ever again. Cut to Taxi Driver, and I'm like, hey.
I think that's one of the cool things about going back and watching these older films is that they sometimes will show something in the movie that just like jogs a memory,
triggers,
or
yeah,
it'll be something you had seen as a kid and you've never seen again. It's kind of cool.
This definitely did trigger, and I mentioned like another one to you, which was Poor Man's Cereal, that my dad used to do.
Well, why don't you explain that?
So, my dad, and I vaguely remember this memory, vaguely, when my dad used to describe Poor Man's Cereal, is where you take like Wonder Bread or a white bread and you shred it up or cut it up and put it in a bowl with milk and put sugar on the top of it. And you just eat it. Now it's actually like they use like cream and stuff and sugar and they bake it and it kind of makes like a bread pudding type thing. But I just remember that I'm like, wait, my dad used to tell me about that. He also told me about another one, and he used to eat it all the time, and I used to laugh at him, but as an adult, I still make it. It's where you take elbow macaroni. Okay. I am making myself known of how much a loser I am. It's where you take elbow macaroni and you cook it, but then you put it in warm milk with butter and salt and pepper, and you eat it like a soup or a cereal, like warm elbows and warm milk.
That honestly sounds disgusting.
It is so good. Don't knock it. I'm going to make you try it. Whole milk, too.
I'm not fucking trying that.
But yeah, like it just triggered this weird memory that I'm like, my mom used to say like, oh, why does your father eat that? And I'm just like, I don't know, but I remember the bread and the sugar and the milk, and then I remember that. And I'm just like, what the heck is going on with this movie?
For anybody watching that hasn't seen Taxi Driver, there's a scene where he eats this Poor Man's Cereal at his apartment. That's why
it triggered for me, yeah. There was another small scene with him that kind of triggered it. How cheap taxis used to be. It was 65 cents a mile.
Yep.
I think the last time I was in New York City was, I think, late 2000s. No, it was 2014. I was actually going to see a K-pop concert with my friends. And there was a blizzard happening. We left our car in New Haven and we had to take the train in, and we were delayed because obviously there was a huge blizzard that came through. So we were stuck in New York City. And I remember the side of the taxi said like 2 something a mile. And my friend was like, oh, it'd be easier if we jump in the taxi, because I was having a hard time walking. Because obviously, if everybody knows, I just had a surgery on my ankle and this whole fucking left leg just doesn't work. Hasn't worked since like 2009. That's another story for another day. But I remember them, oh, let's just get in the taxi and drive the mile. We'll just pay cheap. And the driver was like, oh, because it's a blizzard, and he could tell we were tourists, he was like, it's higher. It's like 3 times higher. So he was going to overcharge us like $10 or $11 to just drive a mile. And I remember like, New York is kind of scummy. Cut to this guy thinks New York is a cesspool. And that's what he says, like, I think at least 5 or 6 times. It's a cesspool. It's a cesspool.
Yeah. So throughout this movie, you're getting these moments where we're just hearing Travis's thought process through this like film noir narration. And he's talking about how all he sees is the filth and the degradation of the
There's
city.
trash in the streets, there's hookers, there's just angry people. I mean, it was really kind of telling of how corrupt New York City and how gross New York City is. Sleazy. I think sleazy is probably the best way to put it. Like, I've only been to physically in New York City. I've been to Times Square. I've been to Queens before. And I didn't think it was that bad. I was like, oh, okay. I was warned my whole life. From when you're not from New York, people tell you, don't go to New York. You're going to get robbed. You're going to get mugged. You're going to get killed. I didn't mind it. I liked New York. New York was pretty decent. Maybe I went on a good day. Maybe I went on a bad day. I don't know. I have no idea. But, like, I've always had this fear as an outsider. If you're not a New Yorker, you have a fear. And, I mean, we've been to Boston. We've been to Providence. And Providence is so small compared to New York City. Like, Providence is like, I don't know, a backlot tour version of anything New York might be.
Yeah, New York, it's got a whole different fucking atmosphere.
The whole fucking island.
I've only been twice. Both times were
You went on
miserable.
New York Eve. Oh my God. You went on New Year's Eve with a friend once. No, I'm pointing to him. You were insane. Like,
that was an absolute fucking
you want to go
shit
again?
show. No. Like, both times I went, it was not a great experience, but like I never had anything happen to me.
Yeah.
Like, even when we went on New Year's Eve, we didn't get anywhere near Times Square, but it was like where we were, there was nobody. Like, we didn't run into anybody. The weirdest thing that happened was when we were waiting for the train back home, a pimp came into the station and was just sitting across from us.
Did he have like a purple suit?
Oh,
like
we're talking long, furry trench coat.
Oh yeah, baby.
Big heels and a feathered hat. Like,
please tell me he walked up to you with the limp going, "What's up, motherfucker?" I would have been like, "Yes, yes, the experience was fulfilled."
He didn't talk to us at all.
Oh
but
man,
he strutted his ass in and sat down. It was
That's
hilarious.
when you're sitting there going, "You want to make movies?"
Oh god, it was so funny.
The weirdest thing that happened in New York City to me is the snow started and we were like, okay, the concert starts at this time. We're a little early. Let's go get lunch. And I told you this story before. And we went to this Chinese place in like a little ways away from Times Square. I don't remember what it was called. But I'm sitting there and we're like, oh, we're going to get drinks. Da-da-da. And our waiter comes by and he's like, oh, and for you, and for you. And he looks at me and goes, Leah? I went, oh my God. It's somebody I was in drama class in high school with in New York City who recognized me. And I'm like, what? How? He goes, you haven't changed. Mind you, this is 2014 and I graduated in 2003. So like, I'm like 29. Like, I'm not really that much older. But, you know, thankfully, due to good genetics and a chronic illness, I will never age. I only have tiny little crow's feet next to my eyes. Thanks, chronic illness.
So these stories aside, the way this film depicts New York is in a much darker light.
And did you notice the scenes that are darker and grittier? It's just nasty. Like, absolute nastiness. But when they're in the sunlight and when they're in like busy sections, it's clean, it's clutter free, there's policemen there, there's like order, but when it's dark and gross, it's chaotic.
Yeah.
I feel like, is that a representation of what he feels in his mind all the time? Like when he has just a bit of hope, like you only see the happy and the hope in the sunlight when he's around Betsy, but when he's in the taxi, it's dark, it's dreary. Even the moments where he's still in the taxi and he sees Betsy, it's dark and rainy. Like, I feel like the taxi is a metaphor for his mind too. He's trapped in this, like, this going through the motions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I hate this movie has a purpose. I wanted to hate this movie. I wanted to.
I literally think everything in this movie is designed to feel like it's in his head. So, like, every little aspect, like, down to Betsy's coworker being, like, so close-knit with her. Like,
but awkward as hell.
But awkward as hell. Like, the whole conversation that Travis ends up having with her at the coffee shop where he's like, I don't like that guy. I could tell, I could just feel that he's that there was no connection between you two. So, like, I think what we are seeing of him is what Travis sees of him, not what he actually is.
But when they were interacting without Travis being there, it felt like normal coworkers. Like, oh, what are you doing, Jerry? Why are you driving me nuts? Water cooler banter, like normal stuff. Like, and when he's not in the scene, and there's only a few where he's not in the scene, he's outside of it.
Yeah,
so,
looking in.
Like, he's kind of seeing into it, and you're hearing their conversation. It just feels like, oh, okay, it was really normal, like.
But, alright, so at the same time, at least from my perspective, each time we see Betsy talking to someone else, so, like, her coworker, she just naturally talks with, like, a slightly flirtatious vibe to her.
Yeah.
Which is fine. A lot of women did that back then. But to me, watching this, because everything for me is through Travis's point of view, even those moments are his projection of how she acts with other men.
Okay.
So maybe she's not actually talking to him like that, but that's how he thinks she's talking.
Travis is seeing like the whole, oh, hey, how are you? How's everything? Like, I like him. You don't like him because he's actually being flirty and awkward, or you don't like him because you've built him up to be the bad guy in your brain. Like in the scene where he comes in and he's like, hey, how come you won't call me? How come you won't talk to me? How come, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And I started getting like angry at Travis, like, you don't know her. You don't know anything about her. What are you doing? And the guy was like, hey, back off. This isn't the place. He was concerned for everybody. He was like, this is not the place to do this. You need to go. Like, take it somewhere else. Like, you two can talk, but you gotta go. And he seemed like he was protecting everybody.
Yes.
So it's like, okay. Like, Travis does have this, like, people can be good, but it's overshadowed by this grimy, sleazy mentality that he has for everyone in the city.
Yeah. I think a lot of what we're like, it's hard to really gauge anybody else in this movie because we're living it through Travis's eyes, basically. We are also slowly seeing how unhinged he actually is.
I didn't think in the beginning, I was like, all right, well, he said he was ex-Marine and he was honorably discharged and he's trying to get his life back in order and he's only 26, so he's a young guy. Like, okay, shit like that messes you up.
But you can assume he has some kind of post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, like, okay, there's something up with him. But then it slowly just gets worse and worse and worse. And to the point where by the end of the film, I'm not sympathizing with him, but I almost think that this break or whatever fucking psychosis he goes through is for the better.
I somewhat agree, and I want to get more into that when we get closer to like talking about the end in detail. But something I want to ask you right now is, did you notice the details that show you how out of touch with reality he actually is?
Okay, so a couple of the things was when he's bored and he can't sleep, he goes to the pornographic theater. What are those called? Nudie theaters, X-rated theaters, adult theaters.
Adult theaters, yeah.
And he tries to flirt with the front girl. Like, hey, what's your name? Like, and she's like, nope, back off. We're not doing this. Because she probably has every dude doing that.
That is a good first one, yes.
Second one I noticed where he's like, oh, sometimes I have to clean the cum off the back seats. Sometimes I have to clean blood. I don't care. It's not my cab. Whatever. And all the other cab drivers are like, nope, don't do that in my cab. Like, you have to have some respect. Wait for it till you get home. Like, nope. But Travis just kind of turns a blind eye and is like, whatever. And as this movie goes along, he just gets more and more disconnecting. Like, you just see somebody just pulling the plug very slowly in his brain the whole time.
I have a couple examples that are a bit more in depth.
What I miss.
So, the first one I wrote down was that, so when Betsy goes on the date with Travis.
Yes.
Technically it'd be the second date. It's where they go to the movies.
Where they go to the theater, yeah.
So he takes her to a dirty movie.
Yeah.
And she understandably gets upset.
She's like, oh, is this a pornographic film? He's like, no, I see tons of couples go in here.
And like, she gets upset and they leave the theater and he's like, he's apologizing to her and she's like, you are you kidding me? You really took me to this? Like, it's because he doesn't understand the difference.
Yeah. He's like, oh, it's a theater.
He sees couples coming to these theaters together all the time. He doesn't get that it's for a different reason.
He doesn't understand that, they're going to get their, get all hot and bothered and then go bang later in their, their apartments or their hotel rooms. To him, it's like, oh, I guess this is romance. So in your mind, you're like, what has this kid been through?
Like you said, he's very young, so you assume he went to war long before maybe he even ever was with a woman.
Yeah, because would the Korean War? No, Korean War, my grandfather was in the Korean War in the 50s. So I'm assuming Vietnam.
Yeah, Vietnam would be the likely one.
Yeah, maybe he was in the Vietnam War and that's where he was discharged from. But it's like, okay, the one where he's like, oh, sometimes I have to clean up the back seat, and that's fine. And I was like, That's not fine.
No.
Like, you shouldn't be letting people do that.
The one that really got me was, so after the date at the theater, he tries to call her a few times, and we actually see him on a payphone with her at one point. And he asks her during this conversation, did you get the flowers I sent you? And you can't hear her side of it, but you can definitely tell she's like, I didn't get any flowers. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I don't understand how you didn't get them. But then I think it's a few scenes later, like there's piles of bouquets, like all stacked up, slowly dying in his apartment. He never even sent them to her.
He bought them and brought them home.
Brought them home, never sent them, but thought he did.
I was wondering where all those flowers came from.
He's so out of touch with reality. He thinks he's doing these things, but he's not.
Oh shit, I didn't even put two and two together. I was like, oh, I thought maybe like something happened to him and he's like, oh, this is somebody giving him flowers, but like, shit, I didn't even put two and two together. And Scorsese, when that conversation was happening, he panned to the long hallway looking out. And I was like, there's a meaning behind this. And I feel like the meaning is your conversation is falling on deaf ears. Like, it's going in and then just going right out and nobody's listening. Was he really on the phone with her? Or did he just try calling every Betsy he could and they were just entertaining him?
There's a lot of questions like that you could ask about this whole fucking movie. What is even real? You could go that in depth with it. Most people don't. Most people take a lot of it at face value, which I think is fine.
Welcome to Grindhouse, where we analyze everything.
We overthink the shit out of every shot.
We are professional overthinkers in profession and in our personal life. I think there was alcohol in that hot chocolate, sweetie. Either that or it's, 10:30 at night and I'm exhausted. Oh, there was another out of touch scene. Where did I put my notes? He gave me the creepy puppy dog vibe. And what that means to me is he is sleazy, he is creepy, but he's still innocent. There is this weird innocence about him that just makes him appear creepy. Where in his mind, is he really saying these things? Like when he's like, oh, did you get the flowers? Oh, I sent you flowers. Well, how come? Can I call you? Can I call you back? Like, can I come visit you? Do you want to go on another date? Like, oh, you're busy? Like, but how is he coming off? Because when he storms into the senator's office that she's volunteering at or she works at, like, he is like, how come you won't talk to me? How come you won't call me? Why are you ignoring me? I know you're here. You know I know you're here. And he just does a 180 and becomes like the creepy stalker. So he goes from innocent to stalker in his mind, and it just keeps fluctuating. And it's like, at one point you're like, what's real? Is any of this even like, did he really storm in there? Or is that in his mind too?
That's a good question.
Like,
there are reasons I love this movie. One of the big major things about this that happened throughout this film is Travis continues to cross paths again and again with this young prostitute named Iris. So he first meets her when he's just sitting in his cab, or he pulls off to the curb in his cab, and she hops in the back trying to get away from her pimp.
Yeah, she's like, just drive, just go, just drive.
Which I forget what she calls him.
Sport.
She's begging him to go, and then the pimp kind of drags her out of the cab, tosses $20 in. He's like, just forget about it. It didn't happen.
And he holds on to this crumpled 20, and he refuses to use it.
Yeah, he doesn't,
because it bothers him that he just drove away.
The whole moment sat wrong with him. He felt like he should have done something.
Yeah, because he usually
didn't.
turns a blind eye to that shit, but like seeing as how young, and I mean Jodie Foster, like, okay, Jodie Foster doesn't even have boobs at this point. She is
not.
12. Like, I remember, like, oh, I know Jodie Foster was in, like, movies when she was younger. But I didn't realize how young. When they started production of this, she was 12. When they finished and the movie came out, she was 14.
Yeah.
But still, like, this movie's heavy for a 12-year-old kid. Like, Jodie, you okay? How you doing in there? Like, you mentally, you great? Is that why you did Contact?
It was all because of fucking Taxi Driver.
Taxi Driver made her fall in love with a cannibal and decide that aliens were posing as her dad. We'll get into Contact. That is in our wheelhouse.
Oh, God.
Contact is like 3 hours long, and I love it.
Fucking hell.
It is brutal, and you're going to kill yourself. I know it. You're just
Can't
going to be
wait.
like, oh, no.
I'll load the gun now.
We don't have a gun.
I'll get one. But so that's how he meets her for the first time, and then he like kind of bumps into her a couple times just while he's driving around, and he sees her again and again, and he like it's like this constant like reminder of like I gotta do something until he finally decides to. He actually goes to find her.
He physically goes to find her, books her as a prostitute.
Just so he can talk to her.
Yeah, goes through the whole motion, and she's like, oh, are you here for a good time? And she gets on her knees and starts unbuckling his pants. He's like, no. You're a young girl. You should be in school. You should be going on dates. You should be living your life. Why are you doing this?
Don't you want to go home?
She's like, oh, no, I'm happy here. I'm happy here. And she's visibly super uncomfortable. Like, just living is just super uncomfortable for her. And it's like... She talks about, oh, I don't want to go back with my parents. They're a bunch of squares. And he's like, and you think this is fun? You think being a young prostitute in New York City is fun? And I'm just sitting there going, he's like so wholesome at this point. But then the stalker thing is just like, what is happening? Like, this movie confuses you on a psychological level.
It does, because you have a lot of different paths that Travis is walking all at the same time. So he's going through this thing with Betsy. Which leads him to toward this vigilante assassination attempt. Because he feels that he has to do something to prove that things need to change. So he decides to like buy guns, and he's gonna assassinate the
Before he does all
presidential
that,
candidate.
he has a run-in with Palpatine. I know it's not Palpatine, but I can't. Senator Palatine.
Yeah.
So he has a run-in where him and his campaign director in the taxi with him, and he's driving around. He's like, wait, aren't you the senator? He's like, yes, I am. And he has a good conversation with him about how the senator's like, things need to change. And I love talking to people like this, like normal, to hear what you guys have to say. And yes, I agree. He's like, yeah, but once you're president, you need to do something about this. Like, you can't let this go on.
Yeah.
And the movie emphasizes, and Martin Scorsese emphasizes that there's trash in the streets. There's, gangs running around. Like, there's a scene where this gang just starts humming like wood and bricks and bottles at the taxi as he's driving around the town. There's prostitutes everywhere. And I Googled, because I was really curious, I Googled how bad prostitution was in the 1970s in New York, and it was bad.
It was rampant.
Holy shit. Like, I know there's still not hating on sex workers, not hating on them at all. What I am like, that's bad, is the young women who ran away, kept by these people, like these like sex trafficking kind of things.
Yeah.
And it's still rampant today.
It is.
It is a huge, huge problem.
Well, this movie, the entire core of this movie showcases a lot of different themes. It's trying to say something about society at that time.
Yeah.
And we're talking about things like, there's themes of anti-government, there's themes of anti-establishment.
Racism was a big one too.
Racism, vigilante justice.
Yep.
I can't even put words to all of it.
There are a bunch floating around in my head. I went, cultural appropriation? No, I don't know if that one was in there, but hell, let's just throw that out there just for. But it also showed, it showed you American Bandstand, which was like, oh, look at these young people having a good time on television. And it showed you all these shows and movies where these women were either being abused or they were being belittled. And it was, it really showed that the 70s were not this romanticized time that people show it as.
There was a lot of, it was like all those little reminders of like, things aren't as good as you think they are.
Yep.
Things are like, the American Bandstand thing for me is like, it kind of speaks like...
polishing a turd.
Yeah, it's like, this is what we want you to think it is. Yeah. But
live from New York City, like young people dancing and having fun, but yet you have these young girls being forced into prostitution. These kids in these gangs. That scene where the store clerk is being held up by the young kid saying, "Give me all your money." Now you have to think when Travis shoots him and kills him, he's thinking in his head, and I did too, oh my God, what did I just do? He's a young kid. He's probably just trying to fend for his life in this cesspool of a city.
Well, but he's also thinking what he said. He's like, I don't know what to do. This gun isn't registered. Yep. And I think it's really telling that the shop owner immediately is
I got this, don't worry and starts beating
get out
the
of here.
Shit out of the guy.
Like, he takes the gun for him. He's going to get rid of it for him. Like, it's telling how bad it was. Like, he's willing to cover up this murder.
When he's going to hit him, he's like, this is the 5th fucking punk that's done this year. And I'm like,
fucking hell.
Holy shit. Like, what do you have, a professional, like, oh, I just gotta call the mom and be like, hey, I got body for you to get rid of, like, god damn. That makes me think, is New York any better now?
These days, with how rough things are, it might be worse.
I mean, when I was in New York City at night, I did not see prostitutes everywhere and gang violence and anything like that.
Well, that was also before recent history.
Yeah. I mean, but now, like, with everything happening with, I'm just going to say it, like, the Black Lives Matter protests, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, like, we're taking steps back.
Yeah.
And you're looking at this and it's like, oh, this is saying something about we need to make changes. Now you're looking at it 1976, 2022. That's like 40-something years, maybe 50-something years. Doesn't feel like anything's changed sometimes. It feels like we're even farther back than we should be.
I agree.
Let's not get very political because this is not a political podcast and I don't want to get yelled at.
There are actually a couple of things that I wanted to mention earlier, but I don't want to let them slide. So, okay. Some things I noticed about this movie is like there's a lot of emphasis on detail.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things that comes to mind is they're doing a lot. Scorsese does a lot to showcase the world surrounding our protagonist at all times. Like, throughout every scene, he's constantly being observant. Not just in terms of Travis, but like the camera itself is being observant. So there's tons of moments where somebody will be like, people will be talking, Travis will be there, and he'll completely drift focus to something else.
And he's just staring at a dude in the cafe, just staring. And just staring at him, just going blank when people are talking at him, and I'm like...
Or when he puts the Alka-Seltzer in the drink and he just like stares into it. The one that I actually noted was when he goes to ask out Betsy for the first time. He goes in there, he interrupts her conversation, and he's very... what's that word? Where you're...
Cocky?
Confident.
Same thing.
Yeah, basically. He's exuding confidence in that moment. But he comes in... What?
Oozing.
Yeah. He comes in and he's talking to her about, like... I see you in this place. You're surrounded by all these people. The phones are all going off. You're bored.
You're lonely.
You're lonely. But to emphasize this moment, like, they could have just literally held on him.
Yeah.
But instead, Scorsese decides to do this overhead shot following his hand over the desk. And you just see the clutter.
Yeah.
And the chaos that she sits in front of every day. And she's alone in it.
And it's like, okay, is this guy crazy or is he have truth?
I think he has truth. Like, I think he's an observant character. Yes, he's fucked in the head.
Mentally ill.
But he's observant of the world around him. He sees the things that most people are overlooking. So, like, he sees that she is keeping herself busy. She's surrounded by people at all times, but she's alone to some degree or another, the way he is. He's surrounded by people every night as he drives around the city. He's got people in his cab, but he is alone.
Yep.
So he sees that connection between them. And I think that's a really cool... it's a cool thing that this movie does, is it brings attention to those details.
There's a great example of that with a fun fact attached to it.
Oh boy.
So he picks up a fare, which is a gentleman in a dark suit with dark hair and a beard.
Yeah, we got to talk about this.
And it is my favorite scene, and it yields one of my favorite lines, and I will leave that for closing questions because, oh, doggy. But he pulls up to he says where he needs to go, and he pulls up and he turns the meter off. He's like, what are you doing? I didn't tell you to turn it off. Turn it back on. I don't care if we have to sit here all night. I don't care what I have to pay. We're going to sit here. And he doesn't get mad at this whole interaction with this gentleman. He's like, do you see that woman up there in the window? Second window? That one right there? Are you looking? Are you paying attention? Are you looking? Yeah, see her? That's my wife. You want to know what's funny? That's not my apartment. I'm going to kill her. I'm going to kill her. He says something very nasty. Very nasty. And it's just Travis listening and observing and paying attention to everything. He's staring at the woman. He's looking at him in the rearview mirror. He's looking at the entire surroundings.
Would you like to deliver your fun fact before I go into something on this?
The gentleman that is talking about killing his wife is none other than Mr. Martin Scorsese.
It is indeed.
It is.
And I have a caveat to your fun fact.
Caveat? Go on.
That role was originally played by somebody else.
And Martin just stepped in?
No. So they cast somebody else in that part. They were ready to shoot that scene, and the guy didn't show up. So Scorsese just jumped in. He was like, fuck it, we have to shoot this scene. I'm just going to do it.
I mean, and Scorsese conveys an angry man who found out his wife's cheating on him.
And
very well.
Honestly, he probably pushed his anger for the actor not showing up into that part.
Oh God, because you're like, I feel like this is, it's uncomfortably real.
It's like the best scene in the fucking movie.
It really is.
I love that scene, and I think for so many more reasons than you can guess.
Okay. Explain away, Mr. Director.
So, that scene has a lot of meaning to me.
Okay.
That scene is, for me, the turning point of the whole movie.
Do you think that's where he snaps?
Not so much where he snaps, but, so, like you said, you have this guy, he's in the car, he's explaining...
He's just barking.
He's basically giving Travis an example of how fucked up things are.
Yep.
Like, that's my fucking wife up there. That's not my apartment. She's up there with some other dude. And then he's saying, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to kill her.
I'm going to kill her tonight.
Then he explains how he's going to kill her.
In great detail.
He says, I'm going to kill her with a .44 Magnum.
Don't say my favorite line.
I'm not. But he goes into graphic detail on how he's going to kill her. And to me, whenever I watch that scene, that is it. He's delivering this whole monologue, possibly giving Travis the idea that the wicked need to be punished. And how he could punish them.
Because the next thing is he contacts Andy, the gun dealer.
Yes.
Okay.
And the icing on the fucking cake, I don't think this would have been anywhere near as powerful to me if it wasn't Martin Scorsese playing the part, because he is literally directing his actor
on what to do. Oh my God.
He is directing his character toward the path he needs to take.
And he's filtering how passionate he is about this movie, how angry he is that this guy didn't show up. And that's why that scene feels so uncomfortable.
It is horrifically terrifying when you really think about it.
It's too meta to talk about.
I love everything about it.
Oh, God.
Because he then literally goes out, buys a .44 Magnum, among other things.
4 guns.
And starts on a path to punish people. Like, it is awesome.
On a path of righteousness. So before we stray away too far, I would like to talk about how I like Robert De Niro. I haven't seen him in many films, but he's a national treasure. Everyone loves Robert De Niro. If you don't love Robert De Niro, you're wrong. Sorry, I just squeaked and scared the cat. But I never knew the famous movie quote, "Are you talking to me?" was this film. I thought it was always The Godfather.
No, God, no.
I always thought, "Are you talking to me?" was The Godfather. So I'm watching the scene where he's like, "Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?" And I'm sitting here going,
I don't see anybody else here.
I don't see anybody. Are you fucking talking to me? I'm sitting here going, my life is a fucking lie. I have
See what happens when you don't watch movies?
Shut up, Tetrault. I have never thought about where that... And I've used that line. Are you talking to me? Like, obviously, it's emphasized. And over the years, I thought it was, are you talking to me? Are you fucking talking to me? Well, say hello to my little friend. I realize I'm mixing Scarface and Taxi Driver.
What the fuck?
Look, I've never seen either until tonight. Never seen Scarface. I don't know if I want to see Scarface. Because I'm not an Al Pacino fan either. But, you know.
I like Al Pacino, but I don't like that movie.
I don't like Godfather and I don't like Scarface. But eventually we're going to have to do them.
Ugh.
I know.
Let's not talk about that right now.
That'll be in 2025.
35. 45.
Do you think we're going to be doing this for 20 fucking years?
You never know.
Do we have enough material to cover 20 fucking years?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, you're right. Well, this is episode 45, you said? 45, which means we're closing in on the end of the year pretty quickly.
Yeah, we're very close.
And technically, if you count all the movies or tapes on one row, we have done one row of tapes.
Yeah.
And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We got 20 rows of tapes in this house.
Not to mention all the bins in the closet.
Let's not talk. And the extra. One day we will have to put up pictures on a website. We've got to make our own website, and we will show you exactly what this apartment looks like. And eventually, once we make the archive in our future place, because I have a book nook in his little alcove of tapes. And I have to rest my feet on some tapes sometimes. That's how many tapes we have.
We have a lot.
We have a lot of tapes.
We have a lot.
But yeah, this, like, hearing that line, I looked right at Shawn and went, is that where this line is from? And he goes, yeah. I'm like, whoops. Never knew that. And I can hear my friend Joe in my head just be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You didn't know that's where this is. And I'm watching this whole movie. And I have to tell you, I can hear my friend Joe in the back of my head going, you're finally watching this now? Now? This is the same man that made me watch Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket when I was totally not ready to watch that movie. And I finally watched this movie and I'm like, are you out of your goddamn mind making me watch this? Same man who thinks Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm is the greatest sitcom in the world. I hate awkward, uncomfortable comedy. I hate it. I can't stand it. I just get like like bugs, like ticks are crawling on me, and I'm just like, I can't. Oh.
Before we completely glaze it over, that is not Scorsese's only appearance in this movie.
What? Where? How? Is he really playing Jodie Foster's character? I thought that.
Yeah. He's actually shows up one other time early in the film. It's the moment where we see Betsy for the first time, and it's just Travis like talking about when he saw her for the first time.
Did he open the door?
No. He was the guy sitting outside of her building on the stoop.
Oh.
He's just sitting there in like a black t-shirt. It's just he's just there. I don't know why. Maybe that was gonna be his cameo, and then the other thing happened.
Water went down the wrong tube. This is it. I'm coming home. Goodbye. Maybe that was supposed to be his cameo, but I don't think this movie would have been as good if he wasn't playing that irate passenger.
I agree. Like
100%.
That scene is chilling.
Gold.
Every time I see it.
Because it's raw. It's real. That's why I liked it.
Yeah.
What was the other fun fact that I saw? Okay, so here's a fun fact that I was reading because it's right on the Wikipedia page. Do you know who John Hinckley Jr. is?
That name sounds familiar.
I'm going to read this word for word from Wikipedia.
Oh boy.
Taxi Driver formed part of the delusional fantasy of John Hinckley Jr. that triggered his attempted assassination of President Ronald Reagan in 1981. An act for which he was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Hinckley stated his own actions were an attempt to impress Foster, on whom Hinckley was fixated by mimicking Travis's mohawked appearance at Palatine's rally.
That's right.
When Scorsese heard about his motives behind the assassination attempt, he briefly thought about quitting filmmaking as the association brought negative perception on the film.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that.
I was reading that going, all right, I'm not a huge fan of Scorsese, but this man could not get a break with this fucking movie. First, the association was like, it's too gory. You're getting an X rating and it won't be playing. Then this dude literally copycats Travis to impress Jodie Foster, who at that moment wasn't even 20 yet.
No.
She was literally 18 or 19 at that point. People who find insanity a good thing, like, oh, I'm going to do this for insanity reasons, for good, why do you do these things? What? My other one that absolutely bothers me is the dude that got an autograph from John Lennon and then fucking shot him hours later.
Yep.
Like, you're a huge fan of this man. You waited and got his signature, and then hours later, you shot him dead on his front steps.
We'll never know. We'll never know what really goes through these people's heads.
Like, what in the world? I am baffled by, like, yes, you need help. You have mental illnesses, like, mental illness awareness in the world, not even just this country, in the world, needs to be addressed harder.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, you've said it how many times to me, you need to see a therapist. Because I've got things going on in my brain I can't fix. None of us can fix stuff. At least I'm still self-aware to know when it's a good time to open my mouth and when it's a bad time to open my mouth.
Yeah.
But there are people that need more help. This whole movie is like an advocation for, like, mental health awareness.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, if he had mental help after being honorably discharged, if he had a therapist, if he could work through his problems, would he be the same person? Would he have been so aggressive with Betsy? Would he even taken the chance? He saw this blonde woman in a white dress that looked like a goddess to him. Why does she look like a goddess? And why, in my brain, do I think she looks like someone in a porn film that's beautiful and blonde and all that? Why did he gravitate to that?
I have something that might touch on that, but we're going to wait. Everything we've talked about, even though we're going a bit out of order throughout this whole thing, basically leads to the point where Travis has had enough.
Yep.
He goes to the rally where he's going to attempt to assassinate the senator.
Is he Senator Palantine? Yeah, senator.
He doesn't succeed in doing that.
No.
He actually gets like spotted before he can try.
I don't even think he goes through with it. I think he hesitates, in my opinion.
I think he does hesitate, but then they see him, so he like runs away, goes back home. But that night, he does go to
the pimp house
to help Iris.
Yes.
And this is the big climax of the movie. So he goes up to the pimp, and the pimp doesn't recognize him because by this point he shaved his head into a mohawk.
Yeah.
And he
looks very different.
A lot different. But he has a short conversation with the pimp, kind of to see if he recognizes him.
And the pimp just dismisses him like he's nothing.
Yeah, he dismisses him. He's like, "Do I know you? Do I know you?" And Travis shoots him in the stomach.
Yeah.
He then goes into the. Is it a whorehouse or is it just like a?
They say it's like
It's like an apartment building that they took over.
Yeah, it's like. Oh, before we keep continuing, do you want to tell everybody who the pimp is?
Oh yeah, our lovely pimp. What was his nickname? Sport.
Matthew is his real first name.
Matthew is played by none other than the infamous Harvey Keitel.
And I'm looking at him going, all right.
Almost unrecognizable in this
because
movie.
He has long hippie hair, and he has. But then I can see Harvey Keitel in my head, like his older things. And then I hear the voice, and I'm like, I know that voice. I know. And I'm looking at the cast, and I click on his name, and I'm like, holy shit! It's like the dude grandpa.
Yeah, in this movie, he's full on pimp. We're talking.
He is young.
He's got like the pimp hat.
He's got the red bell bottoms that are pulled up to like his fucking
with platform
shoes, an open white shirt with the bell sleeves and a vest, and he's got a glow stick around his neck, and I'm like, dude.
Did you catch?
Oh, he did the hey bro.
No, his fingernail.
Oh, he had a coke nail?
He had the coke nail on his pinky.
Wait. Well, he did say something. Did he say something about coke?
I think at some point.
At some point he did, but I'm like, oh my god. And then I'm thinking to myself, did they put a fake nail on there now? Or do you think he was like, nah, I'm gonna grow it out
He probably put that on himself.
Oh my god.
That was probably an actor thing.
Dude, like, this dude is a respectable actor, like, now in my mind. Like, oh, he'd never do something like this. Cut to the 70s, we're like, yeah, I'll play a pimp. Like, whoa. But go on about the climax.
So he goes into this apartment building turned whorehouse and basically starts blowing his way to the top. Like, he's shooting anybody he comes in contact with.
The doorman who takes the money for the apartments, he blew his hand off first. And the guy's like, I'll fucking kill you. I'll fucking kill you. He's bleeding all over the walls, the floor. He's throwing the gun out of his hand.
Fucking Harvey Keitel comes back in and shoots Travis in the neck.
In the neck. His neck is spurting blood. He's still going. He is pure adrenaline at this point. Gets up to like the second floor or like the landing. And this dude comes out of Iris's room. Come to find out from the newspaper clippings, it was a mob boss leader for New York.
Yep.
And I was laughing at that going, oh my god, they're going to hail him as a hero. Sure enough. He shoots him, and then Iris is like, don't shoot him. And then he blows the fucking doorman's brains out. And then the scene, like, that scene was crazy. Like, I understand why they were concerned for Jodie Foster's mental, like, faculties.
But the best part was that he does all of this. It's absolute chaos. All these people are dead.
Yeah.
He puts the gun to his own chin, and he's out of bullets. He checks his other guns, and he's out of bullets. So he just sits there.
And he mimics shooting himself in the head going,
as the cops come in.
But then the scene leaving the apartment, and I think that's the best cinematography in the movie, is you're watching the camera slowly leave. You see the cops just standing there like, what do we do? It pans to all the blood, the violence, the guns everywhere. And then it zooms out to where people are trying to get into the building. People are stopping them. They're putting the crime tape up. And it's nothing but pimps and whores and all of this. And then there's the whole street is lined with trash and scum. And you're seeing things not from Travis's point of view, but the camera is literally zooming you out going, this is what it looks like.
This is the reality.
This is the reality. Like, this is normal. And I was like, at that ending scene, I'm just sitting there like, oh,
but
wow.
That's not where the movie ends.
No, it is not.
We do learn in the next scene, basically.
Through a letter from Iris's parents.
Through a letter voiceover from Iris's parents that thanking Travis for saving their daughter, for that she is home safe. She's going back to school. She's trying really hard to get her life back together.
Yep.
And it's all because of him, and they would do anything to thank him if they could.
And then there's newspaper clippings depicting the scene, and then him being hailed as a hero, getting rid of a mob boss, saving this girl. And I'm like,
we learned that he was in a coma.
Yep.
And then we actually see Travis, and he's back at work.
And he looks normal.
He looks normal again. His hair's grown back. He's got the scar on his neck. And there's this last little scene where his friends at work are like, oh, you have a fare. And he looks over. We don't see who it is. He's like, oh, fuck. So he goes, takes the fare.
Obviously, by that reaction, you can tell he pretty much checks out his fares very well now. He's like, no, I'm going to take serious stuff now.
And he gets in the cab, starts driving, and we learn that his fare is Betsy.
And she has this ethereal look about her. She's smiling. She looks creepy, in a sense, to me in this scene.
And I think I have a theory on why.
Okay.
I don't know for sure, because there's an edit that disproves this slightly. But throughout this entire sequence where they're having this conversation, she's telling him, oh, I saw you in the paper. How are you doing? And he kind of is brushing it off. He's like, they blow that out of proportion. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
But she is shot through the rearview mirror the entire time. Until she gets out at her destination.
Yep.
And they have when he drops her off, they have this moment. She asks him how much she owes him, and he waves it off. He's like, don't worry about it, and leaves.
Yep.
And that's our climax.
Yeah.
But for me, I can't help but wonder if she was really his fare, or if that was him in his head letting go.
Of her, or just letting go of everything?
Of all of it. Like, she was the symbol of the perfection that he was aiming to bring with his act of
heroism,
vigilantism, whatever you'd call it. And him saying goodbye to her in that way was,
you don't owe me anything.
You don't owe me anything. We're
good.
Fine.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go.
That was him letting go of all of it and living a life for himself.
Now, what is the edit that disproves that?
The fact that they cut to her outside of the car.
I mean, it could still be where it is a real person. It's just another blonde woman, because when he drives away, we see the back of her.
Yeah.
So what if it's just another blonde woman?
Which it probably was, but I wish they had only showed her through the rearview mirror.
Because she says, oh, I've read you in the papers. How are you? Could have been anybody.
Yeah. And
then she says, what do I owe you? It's not, how are you? He doesn't say, oh, Betsy, hey, how are you? He's just like smiles, and he's like, oh, I side with you. I think it was just another blonde woman. I think it's one of those we'll never know.
Yeah.
But since when he's driving away, that final scene where it's just the back of her, maybe it's not Betsy. Maybe it was just another woman who was like, why did he just not let me pay? Like, what just happened?
Yeah, I personally don't think it was her.
Yeah, I will agree with that. There's too much symbolism. There's too much mental instability in this film for it to be as cut and dry as it was.
Agreed. I do have a question before we head into closing stuff here.
Okay.
Now that you've seen this movie, do you see the parallels with Joker?
Oh, fuck.
Do you see why that was getting so much attention?
It's essentially the same film.
It's very, very similar. It's like a cross between that and another movie with De Niro, King of Comedy.
Who directed the Joker?
Todd Phillips, I think his name was. I could be wrong on that.
It does take the same mental instability. It takes the grossness. It's not beat for beat identical.
No, but it's got a lot of similarities.
Too many coincidences. Okay, because we did see the Joker and I loved the Joker, but you also were like, a lot of people are not happy because it's way too identical to this other film. Is that why you wanted me to watch this film?
No, that was just happy coincidence.
Okay. I will say I like this one better because I believe Joker's living up to a standard of that I don't think it can reach.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have Martin Scorsese in a cab being like, I'm going to kill my wife. Should have just called Martin and have him do a scene like that.
Makes you wonder, did he actually shoot his wife?
Martin, did you kill your wife in that scene?
Inquiring minds want to know.
We need to know.
All right. But that's the story of Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
One other thing that I actually would like to bring up, because we actually made it through this entire thing without really many fun facts.
Yeah.
So one thing I'd like to mention, just because I feel it's worth talking about, Robert De Niro worked 15-hour days for a month driving cabs in preparation for this role.
All the shit he must have seen.
He also extensively studied mental illness.
And you said he lost weight for this film,
He
right?
lost weight for this film. And during his off time, when filming 1900, which was, I guess, another film he was doing at this time, he visited a U.S. Army base in northern Italy and tape-recorded conversations with Midwestern soldiers so that he could pick up their accent.
I didn't notice the accent.
He did all of that extra work
just
to play Travis Bickle.
Wow.
That's fucking dedication.
Committed.
God damn it.
I mean, there's another parallel to the Joker. Joaquin Phoenix did the same thing.
Joaquin Phoenix, yes.
Never. It's Joaquin. It will always be Joaquin. I will never break. I know it's Joaquin. But he did extensive research too. He did all that shit for that because he posed as that character for so long. Because he's a method actor, isn't he? He gets into parts like that.
Who, De Niro or Phoenix?
Phoenix.
Yes, Joaquin Phoenix is a method actor for sure.
An extreme method actor, which method actors are scary.
There was that whole controversy some years back where, remember, he went on like David Letterman and he had that wicked long beard
with the sunglasses and he was just acting
and he was like out
off.
of it.
Yeah.
But that's because he was in character promoting a movie. I think the movie's called I Am Still Here.
Yeah.
And he's playing this like out there character. But like nobody knew that he was promoting a movie. He just came on the show in character.
Because everybody was like, is he okay? Is he quitting acting?
Everybody
like,
what's
what's happening?
Was fucking insane.
No, he's just a crazy actor. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
But I think that's a really cool thing. Like, you had people so fucking sold that you had just lost your mind.
It makes you think, does he go home to his wife and his kids like that?
I fucking hope not. Jesus.
God.
Method acting is it's a scary thing. Like,
it's what killed Heath Ledger.
It's what killed Heath Ledger. It's what basically drove Jim Carrey to the point that he's at now. And that man is like, he fractured somewhere.
Jim Carrey will always be a very beloved character or a very beloved actor of mine.
Oh yeah, I love him and everything.
But Jim Carrey is also what happens when you put your heart and soul into Hollywood and Hollywood gives you nothing back.
Agreed.
I am very grateful that Jim Carrey is still here today because he could have gone the same way Robin Williams did. Because Robin Williams, while the most loved and hilarious and warm human being, had probably the worst demons in his brain. And you know Carrey's fighting the same shit.
Yeah.
And you wonder if half of these actors are even going to make it.
I just hope that they are stronger than the others.
Stronger, maybe a little smarter. Seek help. Seek help. Seek help. If you're going to be a method actor, just understand in the middle. Is it C. Thomas Howell? That is also, there's somebody who is a method actor, or Thomas, if there's a Thomas in it, where he'll act and then he quits and he takes a year or two off and he just kind of like resettles into being himself and then he goes back to acting. Maybe it's C. Thomas Howell was in Gettysburg. That's probably where I'm getting confused from.
No, I'm pretty sure you're thinking of Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis, yes. Because he played Lincoln.
Yeah.
And he lived Lincoln's life for like a year. And then he did the part. And then he was like, all right, I don't want any scripts. I don't want anything. I'm quitting acting. I will be back when I'm ready.
Well, that's what he does for every part.
And I think that's the smartest thing. Very smart.
You know what he actually does? Like,
is he a woodworker?
He's a cobbler.
Yeah. He basically does something. He said in an interview, and I think I read it, where I was like, that makes sense. He's like, yeah, you could be $1 million actor or actress and have all this money and shit, but if you don't have something to keep you in a like humdrum kind of grounded, you're gonna go nuts.
Especially if you're doing method acting like that.
Method acting is dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
I mean, when I was at one point in my life, I wanted to go to Juilliard and I wanted to be a theater actress. I wanted to perform on stage. You really have to become that character because you will be scrutinized. Yeah. A movie can cut you into anything they need to. When you're on stage, you are it. You have to entertain on stage without the ability to edit or change. And that's why a lot of theater actors just, by the time they're in their 40s, they're burned out. Or they go to Hollywood acting to get this different kind of, but then they'll go back, like David Tennant. David Tennant was a theater actor, went to acting in Hollywood, went back to theater.
Yeah, a lot of classically trained actors flip-flop like that.
Patrick Stewart.
Ian McKellen's done it.
Oh, Ian McKellen. Ian McKellen, never die, please. Please. Patrick Stewart, never die. Who's the other one? Who's the other one that we're all like... Christopher Lee already died on me. I'm mad at him. Who's the other one? Who's the son of a bitch? Harrison Ford. Do not die. And stop making Indiana Jones movies.
All right.
We gotta close this.
Overall thoughts on the film.
It was a thought-provoking film. This is probably one that I'm going to sit here and think about for a couple of hours before I fall asleep, honestly. Because mental illness has really been grating on my brain. Probably the last, like, how long have I been out of work? 3 months?
3 months, yeah.
Just because for a good portion of it, Shawn works, you know? And I'm home alone and people have lives and I don't see people. Now I'm able to venture down the stairs, you know, and leave the house because, you know, I don't have to use the scooter anymore, but I still need walking aids and I'm still in the boot and it sucks. But I was alone with my thoughts for days. And it was literally wake up, use the bathroom, eat food, elevate, and rest. That was it. Like, there was, in my mind, 7 weeks of no end in sight of this. And it kind of broke my brain a little bit. to the point where it made me kind of think about what my next steps in life are going to be. I'm not saying it was negative, but there were days where Shawn wasn't here, and he wouldn't be here for Mondays are the tough ones because you're gone from like 10 a.m. to like almost 10 p.m. sometimes. And it was those days where I would be completely alone. And you're like, yeah, I have the internet, and I have YouTube, and I have movies, and I have all sorts of stuff that I can reach out to the world. But nobody was reaching back in for me. And it's like, this movie really made me think, like, mental illness is not, it's not a fucking joke.
It's not to be taken lightly.
No. And people who sit there and be like, oh, you're mentally ill. Yeah, I am. I'm mentally ill. And you know what? I'm not proud of it, but I will say it proudly, because if you accept the fact that you have a problem, you are miles closer than denying it. And that's it. And this movie kind of, well, I wanted to hate it because I just don't like Martin Scorsese. I don't like the things he has to say now, but he's an old man now. I mean,
yeah.
Same thing with fucking, who's the other director I can't fucking stand? Martin Scorsese and, him. Who did The Godfather?
Coppola?
Yeah, Francis Ford Stupid. I don't like Coppola. I don't like, even though Coppola did Dracula. And I love Dracula.
You're just eating your own words here.
Y'all stupid. But I wanted to hate this film, and I was like, I asked Shawn, I was not looking forward to this film. I'm like, I'm gonna hate this. I'm gonna hate that. I got into it.
I think you came out of it with something.
I came out of it with the perspective of, I need to start calling therapists.
Honestly, that's all I ever hope for.
To get something out of it.
I hope that you get something out of the things that we are watching.
So I have a question for you. What did you get out of watching Hack-A-Lantern the other week? Did you have a profound sense of, like, mental illness needs to be looked at? Or did you have a profound sense of, you're the devil's son! Me.
Yeah, that's all I needed.
That has been blasting in our heads for days, guys.
Oh.
I had a friend of mine come over every week and we watch K-pop videos, and Shawn's just sitting there, and I think that's the only song that's playing in your fucking head is Devil's Son when we're sitting here for 4 hours watching K-pop videos.
Oh my god.
Usually I try to schedule those nights when he's working. He wasn't working that night. What were your thoughts on this film?
So this is a Scorsese movie that I've always loved. I don't love all of his stuff. But
see, even you hate him.
No, I don't hate him. There's just some movies I don't like that he's done. And that's fine. There's movies I don't like that Kubrick's done as well.
Carpenter?
Yeah, Carpenter has a few that I'm not super fond of. But this is one of my favorite Scorsese movies. It might be my all-time favorite Scorsese movie.
Really?
It's a toss-up. There's a few in there that I really, really like. One, I feel like it's so well done. It's so, like, it nails its points perfectly. And it's like this perfect artistic vision that doesn't stray away from itself. It follows the path it sets out to and delivers this very internal story, which you don't get anymore.
No.
Like, it's always, everything now is just so cookie cutter and in your face, and this one is just so fucking, like, personal to this character. You literally live out this entire story through his mind.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's visually a gorgeous film. The sound's great. The score is awesome.
I will say, this is the first time a movie has cold ended that I'm okay with. I don't want to know what happened to him.
Wow.
Yep. I think
you heard it here first, guys.
It was because it's Martin Scorsese. I gotta give him a bone.
Shit.
But we saw, just in that last glance, he's fine. He's okay. He went through his whatever he had to. He's fine now. If he has another break down the road, who knows? But yeah.
See, I wouldn't entirely call this a cold ending when you really think about it, because like, I mean, he wraps up.
All right, lukewarm. it's a lukewarm ending because we don't get like, and he lived happily ever after. It ends like he drives away. That's it. We don't know what happens.
It ends with his resolution.
Okay.
So it closes his story. Now I think we are both going to have the same answer to this, but any favorites?
Let me get my notes, please. I do that noise when I want to annoy Shawn because he doesn't know how to do it.
I can't do it.
So, my favorite line is Mr. Martin Scorsese as Scorn Lover saying, "Do you know what a 44 Magnum would do to a woman's pussy?" If you've never seen what a 44 Magnum barrel looks like, it is about 7 to 8 inches long. Now imagine, if you will, ladies, somebody jams a 44 Magnum up your cooch and fires. That bullet is ripping you inside, and there's no coming back from that.
It's gonna obliterate you.
Holy hell. For scientific purposes, I wish this could have been covered on Mythbusters. Because now I've been sitting there going, no, Martin Scorsese, what happens when you take a 44 Magnum and blow a lady's pussy out?
I'm pretty sure you'd look like a fucking one of Gallagher's watermelons.
Blah! Oh,
it would
God.
be raining bitch.
Oh my God, I don't know why the song from Game of Thrones, The Red Wedding, Reigns of Casterly,
oh God,
came on, and instead it's the Reigns of Cunterly. Just dun, 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 just bits of lady, just oh shoot, there's her clitoris. Like, oh, back on track, please, dear God. That whole scene is my favorite. It is. Because now knowing what happened during production, like, there's a reason why that scene's so passionate, and I'm sitting there going, I'm uncomfortable because he's mad. And De Niro's just sitting in the thing going, is he mad at me? Is he really mad at me? Oh, what's your favorite, sweetie?
That's my favorite. The fucking cab scene.
The two of us looking at each other when he said that, I was like, oh my God.
That has always been my favorite scene. It is, like I said earlier, I feel like it's the turning point of the whole movie. And it
was so good.
It's perfect. It is such a perfect scene. And the fact that it's that way by accident is amazing.
That guy quitting was the best thing that happened to that film.
Agreed. Does it work?
Yes. It also gets plagiarized.
Oh, it's because, yeah.
Yes, this movie works. And I think it's good we didn't do a complete play-by-play because the next question would be, would you recommend it? And I think, does it work? And would you recommend it with this movie go hand in hand? Yes, it works. Fucking watch this movie.
Please watch this movie. I went
into this not wanting... You guys heard me at the end of the last episode. I didn't want to watch this. I was like, oh, God, why? Why do we have to watch this? I'm glad I did. I really am. Like, maybe these, acclaimed directors have something to say. Whatever,
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just being a hoity-toity snotty bitch that's like, it's not a Disney movie. I wouldn't ever say that, but you know what I mean. What about you? Does it work? And would you recommend it?
This absolutely works, and I highly recommend it to anybody that will listen.
Yes, please.
If you haven't seen Taxi Driver, if you like Martin Scorsese films,
you like De Niro,
fucking watch this.
If you want to see what did I call her? Young Foster? Baby Foster.
Baby Foster.
Baby Foster.
This movie is so goddamn good on every level.
I will say there's no nudity. There's a lot of prostitution. There's a lot of weird things. There's no nudity in this film.
They get away with it, and it's perfect.
It's perfect. It is.
This next one seems a little bit stupid as well, given the circumstances, but how would you make this today?
Well, I would set it in the Batman world. No.
I would cast Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker.
Honestly, what's a recent now mundane job that would drive somebody crazy? Customer service.
Customer service, yeah.
I have 20 years of customer service. I used to work in the moving industry. I moved military members. I loved my job. I did. I loved talking to people that were nice. On the other hand, it was the worst fucking job I've ever had in my life. Do you want to be degraded? Do you want to be called a bitch? Do you want to be accused of losing all of someone's stuff because it's a day or two late? Now, if you're in the military, I will never shit on you, ever. You're in the military. That's a hard job. If you're getting mad at me because your stuff's late, I get it. I understand. It is fucking frustrating. But from a person that had to go deal with, and Shawn was there for me to deal with some of these people.
Oh, yeah.
My mental health was in the fucking toilet. I had no self-worth. I didn't care about myself. I worked 40 to 50 to 60 hours a day, sometimes 70. I worked Saturdays. I'd have Sundays off. And to me, it was normal.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, throughout my whole life up until this point, I've worked retail. I've worked fucking menial jobs. Never had any respect. For the fuck's sake, even now, I am just now starting to branch out from that type of life.
Yeah.
But even now, the locked in jobs that I have, the non-freelance jobs that I have, treat me like shit.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's not okay.
No.
Like,
it's not.
It's degrading at this point, especially knowing that I'm close to getting away from it.
Yeah. Customer service, anything, retail, phones, face-to-face, whether you're selling a product, whether you're helping with goods, whether you're just physically on the other line with someone, utility, retail, fucking example, Verizon, cable, insurance. People that hold those jobs, I fucking respect you.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I will never go back. I don't care if I ever lose the job I have. I'm on TDI right now. I can't work at the moment. I have to literally relearn how to walk properly and do stairs. That's where I'm at the moment. If I were to ever lose the job I have now, because I have a really good job, I do, I will never go back to retail. Ever. I have seen what it has done to friends and family. I've seen what it did to me. And that's where I would see this being remade now. Especially somebody who had to work through the pandemic and never had a break. We're good, nothing up. That's where this movie would be remade. You would have somebody working in a customer service every day, day in, day out, listening to somebody's conversation. Even a friend of ours made a point a couple months ago. She lost her husband. She went back to work as a therapist. And one of her clients was like, "You'll never believe the horrible day I've had." And she said, "Sure," insert name here. In her head, she said that she didn't say this to her client. "Sure, tell me how bad your day is when I just lost my fucking husband." That right there made me realize that people, especially now during the pandemic, how broken are people now? Where this movie isn't far off where a lot of people's mental states are.
No. And, you know, to any of my former coworkers, I know at least one of you listens. And
yeah, we have a super fan.
We have our super fan.
Our super fan.
Who I guess listens to every single episode.
Hey.
I really... you have no idea how much I respect what you do because I've been there. Like, I'm in my field now, but I've been there for so long, and I hope that all of you can get out of it.
Yep.
At some point. I hope you can all find your way out of retail life because it is miserable.
Yeah.
But That leads us to, is this mainstream, exploitation, or other?
I didn't think about this. Can I say all the above, Alex?
I mean, technically you can.
Honestly, like, I want to say it is mainstream and exploitation.
Okay.
I will
explain.
Exploitation because he pushed boundaries with this. That whole ending scene, that whole shootout was pushing boundaries to the point where it almost went X-rated. It was in a exploitation category for a little while. Mainstream because it was dealing with the realism and what was happening in the world in the 70s at that time. So I think it leans into both. Obviously, how much money it made, it is mainstream. But with the way Scorsese pushes the boundaries of it, it was leaning into exploitation. So I'm going to put it in both categories.
Okay, well, I don't disagree. This one is very hard to quantify. Mm-hmm. I would say by today's standards, most people see this as mainstream because it's mainstream. A popular movie.
Yeah.
By the time when it came out, I don't know if I would put it in exploitation. Maybe the ending, but the film itself, I feel, is a little bit too highbrow for that. I would probably put it into other.
Okay.
Technically, if it was one of our 3 categories, I would call it art house.
Is art house a category?
Yes.
That falls under grindhouse, doesn't it?
No, different thing altogether.
Oh, okay.
But I would call this an art house film, which is not one of our normal 3 choices, but so I would say other.
Okay.
But unless you have anything else to talk about, I think that brings this episode to an end.
Shut it down, baby.
All right, well, don't go anywhere just yet. Stay tuned for the coming attractions.
Constable Ichabod Crane, sent from New York to investigate murder in Sleepy Hollow.
How much have your superiors explained to you?
Only that the 3 were slain in open ground, their heads severed from their bodies.
Taken by the Headless Horseman, taken back to hell.
He rode a giant black steed. To look at him made your blood run cold. Even today, the Western Woods is a haunted place where brave men will not venture.
We have murders in New York without benefit of ghouls and goblins.
You're a long way from New York, Constable.
Is everyone in this village enthralled to superstition?
We have many things to talk about, even in this backward place.
Excuse my manner. I'm not used to.
Female company?
Murder! The Horseman's killed again!
The assassin is a man of flesh and blood, and I will discover him.
Are you so certain of everything?
Perhaps there's a bit of a witch in you, Katrina.
Why do you say that?
Because you've bewitched me.
Shawn, my dear.
Leah.
Nothing after Leah. Wow, dick.
What do you want me to say?
Hey, honey.
Yeah, bitch.
Yeah, bitch. I'm not ready to let go of Halloween yet. And what is quintessential spooky ooky Halloween other than Tim Burton?
Oh, boy.
Yep. So you would think, Tim Burton, what are we thinking? Nightmare Before Christmas? Corpse Bride? No, we're going Sleepy Hollow.
Yes, this film actually came out at the tail end of our wheelhouse
October
here.
of 1999. I remember seeing this when I rented it at Blockbuster and brought it home. And I fell in love with it because I always knew Christina Ricci from Addams Family. And I was like, what is this? I love this film. I love Christopher Walken. I love Johnny Depp. I love Christina Ricci. I even love the mom. I love that actress. I think she's awesome. But a lot of people think certain staples for Tim Burton. I want to say something controversial.
Fire away.
I hate Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay.
I think it is not enough of a Halloween movie for me to watch it, and not enough of a Christmas movie for me to watch it. I have friends who adore that film. Love it. Best Tim Burton film ever. No, I think this one is. I love the way he plays with color. I love the story that he twists from the Ichabod Crane's tale. I like how it pushes boundaries in my mind. Whereas somebody else would be like, oh, it's just Sleepy Hollow. It's just, whatever. This movie made me rethink how I liked horror when I was a kid. Or like a teenager. Because I really got into Event Horizon, which was horror. But this was like, oh, this is like a softer side of horror. It's like using like an actual legend that I like, the Tale of Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman, to like a real place. Like Sleepy Hollow is an actual place in Massachusetts. And I've visited Sleepy Hollow, and let me tell you, that covered bridge is creepy.
I've never been there. I always wanted to go.
We're going to go. We're going to go to Salem, and we're going to go to Sleepy Hollow, and then we're going to go to Boston, and it's going to be so much fun.
You all right?
I've been trapped in this house for so long. So long.
Fun fact, I actually saw this in theaters when it first came out. This was one of the first movies that I ever saw in theaters.
Do you know how hard you suck right now? I would have killed to see this one in theaters.
Yeah.
Instead, I saw fucking Star Wars.
My mother and my grandmother took me to see it.
Your parents are so cool.
And it was awesome. I remember it being so cool. That opening
Daddy,
with the pumpkin.
take me to some movies, please. I don't remember details of this movie. I remember Christina Ricci being blindfolded and then like trying to touch people, and then I remember like the stepmother, the climax. I remember that.
And another fun thing about this next episode, we're gonna watch this movie on VHS.
So we've been transferring films for a while, and while we were watching Taxi Driver, this was recording digitally to the computer. So we're actually watching, because I didn't have enough time to buy the Blu-ray. We're actually going to watch this on a VHS cut. And Shawn's first comment was, ooh, there's already warping in the beginning. And he got so excited. And I cannot wait to have that little bit of grain and the grit. And
it's going to be fun.
Only we would not care if a movie is warped or gritty or grainy. I loved sitting here watching Jurassic Park on my birthday on the little black and white TV with the shitty sound. And it was warpy and weird. But it was just perfect. Perfection.
All right. Well, I think that brings this episode to an end. All right. Well, I think that's going to bring this episode to an end. If you want to keep up on everything that we're doing, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Grindhouse Podcast. We're on Twitter at Grindhouse Cast. You can find us on Discord, where you can chat with Leah about this film or any of the films that we've discussed in the past, or you can suggest us some new ones. All the links for everything are going to be down in the show notes. Listen to us, give us a rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your morning fix. New episodes come out first thing every Monday morning. If you like what we're doing and you want to show us some support, you can find all that information down in the notes as well. You can support us directly through Acast, or we have a Patreon where you can unlock ad-free listening or get yourself some fun bonus episodes, which I'm actually about to release the first 2 in the coming days. So get on that if you want some extra stuff. Until next week, I'm Shawn.
I'm Leah.
Thanks for listening, and keep watching.
Ooh. I don't know why I did that. It's not even Halloween yet.
Of the shocking nature of many scenes in this film, it is definitely not recommended for the squeamish.